We found it. The $2 million bribe that sent witness 14 to a cell without a trial. J.D. Vance just leaked the offshore wire transfer that proves Judge Caldwell didn't act on preference. He acted on a payout. And wait until you see whose name is on the other side of this check. It's not just one person. It's the entire list of 12. This isn't guesswork anymore. This isn't a rumor. This is a paper trail. Bank routing numbers, timestamps, shell company names that lead back to the same group that's been controlling our legal system for years. When a sitting vice president exposes a federal judge taking millions to jail an innocent witness, you know the walls are finally falling. Hit that subscribe button right now because this story is about to blow up across every platform. You won't want to miss a single update as these names are revealed. Subscribe immediately. This is the kind of coverage they don't want you to see. So, what made J.D. Vance go nuclear with this leak? For months, questions have surrounded the detention of witness 14, a key person whose testimony threatened to pull apart one of the most protected networks in Washington. This witness was held without bail, without trial, in conditions that constitutional lawyers have called punishment before conviction. No one could explain why a cooperating witness was treated like a convicted terrorist. This isn't just another legal fight. This is about whether our whole court system can be bought, whether a judge can get an offshore wire transfer and then within 72 hours sign an order that ruins someone's life, someone whose only crime was being willing to tell the truth. When J.D. Vance stood in front of cameras and held up those papers, he wasn't just making claims. He was showing proof. We haven't seen anything like this since the Pentagon Papers. A sitting vice president with access to intelligence channels most Americans don't even know exist, choosing that the public's right to know is more important than the system's right to hide. The impact is shocking. If these documents are real, and multiple forensic experts are already confirming the metadata, then Judge Harold Caldwell didn't just make a bad decision. He committed a federal crime. Wire fraud, bribery, conspiracy, and possibly, because of what happened to witness 14, something even darker. Here's the full story of how we got here, who's involved, and why Vance picked this exact moment to expose it all. Because this isn't just about one judge. This is about the 12 names on that list, and some of them will shock you deeply. To understand how we got here, you have to go back to when witness 14 first appeared. This person, whose identity is still protected for safety reasons, came forward with testimony that linked high-level officials to a network that, according to sources close to the case, has been working in the shadows of Washington for over 10 years. Tension had been building for months, driven by efforts to attack the witness, strange legal moves to seal testimony, and a pattern of judges stepping away from the case until Harold Caldwell stepped in. But everything exploded on May 3rd when Judge Caldwell issued an emergency detention order. No hearing, no chance for defense lawyers to argue bail, just a signature. And witness 14 was gone. According to court records that were later partly unsealed, the reason given was flight risk and possible witness tampering. Even though witness 14 had voluntarily given up their passport and was wearing an ankle monitor, legal experts called the reasoning extremely weak at best and fake at worst. This wasn't about running away. This was about silencing someone. On May 1st, just 48 hours before Caldwell signed that order, a wire transfer of $2,147,000 arrived in an account registered to Oceanic Holdings Limited, a shell company set up in the Cayman Islands. The real owner of that account, according to documents Vance has now released, leads through 3 layers of company cover-ups to a trust controlled by Judge Harold Caldwell's brother-in-law. The timing is exact. The amount is specific, and the path through Singapore, then Cyprus, then the Caymans is exactly the kind of money laundering pattern financial crime investigators look for. Former Treasury Department analyst Michael Brennan, who spent 18 years tracking illegal money flows, reviewed the documents and said this is all the signs of a planned bribe meant to avoid reporting laws while keeping distance through family ties. But here's what makes this even worse. Caldwell wasn't the only one. The same source account that paid him made 11 other transfers in the same 30-day period. Different amounts, different shell companies, but the same starting point. That's the list of 12. 12 payments, 12 recipients, 12 people who, according to these documents, were bought and paid for. And J.D. Vance has all their names. Smash that like button if this is starting to make sense. If you're seeing how deep this goes, hit like right now. I read every comment, and your engagement helps this reach more people who need to see it. Here's what the documents actually show. The wire transfer started from an account at First Maritime Bank of Singapore under the name Global Civic Partners, LLC. This company has no website, no employees, no real address, just a registered agent in Delaware, and a bank account that has moved over $47 million in the last 18 months. According to company records found through Panamanian registry leaks, Global Civic Partners is fully owned by another shell company called Verdant Policy Group, based in Cyprus. Verdant is then owned by a Cayman Islands trust called the Meridian Foundation. Now, the Meridian Foundation, and this is where it gets serious, lists its main trustee as a man named Charles Weston. Charles Weston is Judge Harold Caldwell's brother-in-law. He married Caldwell's sister in 1998. He has no personal wealth. He has never worked in finance. Yet, he controls a trust that has sent out over $23 million to different accounts in the past 3 years. The $2,147,000 payment to Oceanic Holdings, the account that eventually connects to Caldwell's family network, was made on May 1st at 3:47 p.m. Singapore time. That's 3:47 a.m. Eastern Time. 42 hours later, Caldwell signed the detention order for witness 14. But here's the shocking part. The transfer memo wasn't empty. It included a reference code WCP-14, meaning WCP Witness Containment Protocol 14, the witness number and the goal. They literally labeled the bribe with its purpose. Financial forensics expert Dr. Sound, Rebecca Okonkwo, who has testified in over 40 federal money laundering cases, told investigators that using codes in illegal transfers is more common than people think. But seeing one this clear is extremely rare. It suggests either huge arrogance or the belief these documents would never be seen. The documents also show a second transfer made the same day, $1,340,000 to an account in Monaco linked to a lobbying firm that were to discredit witness 14's testimony. This wasn't just about jailing someone. This was a planned operation. Bank records also show that Caldwell's brother-in-law, Charles Weston, withdrew $185,000 in cash from a Cayman account just 4 days after the detention order was signed. The withdrawal was made in person during what Weston told family was a fishing trip. Cayman customs records show Weston entered the islands on May 6th and left May 8th. No fishing charter was ever booked under his name. And it gets worse. Communication metadata, not messages but connection logs, show a phone registered to the Caldwell household made 14 calls to a number linked to Weston's Cayman account manager in the 2 weeks before the wire transfer. 14 calls, about one per day. Former federal prosecutor Nathan Cross said this level of planning, this amount of communication combined with the money transfers and the judge's action, would get an indictment before lunch if shown to a grand jury. The evidence doesn't suggest minor misconduct. The evidence screams planned corruption. And remember, this is only one of the 12 payments. The other 11 transfers, ranging from $890,000 to $4.2 million, went to accounts with similar setups, shell companies, hidden locations, and owners connected to people with judicial, prosecutorial, or regulatory power. Vance hasn't released all 12 names yet, but sources say when he does, Washington will never be the same. The big moment came when J.D. Vance stood at the podium, held up the wire transfer receipt, and said 7 words that will be remembered for decades. They thought they could buy American justice. The room went quiet. Reporters stopped typing. Cameras zoomed in on the paper in his hand. You could see the routing numbers, dates, and amount clearly. His voice was calm but sharp, the controlled anger of a man who had seen something that disgusted him deeply. Witness 14 is sitting in a cell right now, Vance said. No trial, no conviction, just a bot judge's signature. And while that American citizen sits in detention, the people who paid for it are drinking champagne in countries that don't extradite. A reporter asked if it was right for a vice president to release this. Vance answered right away. What's wrong is a federal judge taking $2 million to ruin someone's life. What's wrong is acting like you don't see it. That's when it became clear this wasn't just another political scandal. This was a direct fight between elected leaders and a hidden system that has worked behind them for years. Vance isn't just showing corruption, he's taking it on. And when a vice president with access to everything decides to go public, you know the old rules are gone. Don't go anywhere. The most shocking part is next. Drop a comment right now if you saw this coming. Tell me, did you think the courts were compromised, or is this blowing your mind? I read every comment. Let me know. This isn't the first time court corruption has threatened American democracy. Think back to 2009, the Kids for Cash scandal in Pennsylvania. 2 judges, Mark Ciavarella and Michael Conahan, were convicted of taking $2.6 million in bribes to send thousands of kids to for-profit detention centers. Kids who committed small offenses like being late to school or making a parody MySpace page were sent to juvenile jails for months. The judges were paid per child. Americans were shocked. How could judges meant to protect the weak sell out kids for money? It seemed like a one-time failure. Then came federal judiciary scandals in the 2010s, showing financial conflicts of interest, judges ruling on cases tied to companies they owned stock in, and promised reforms that never happened. The pattern is clear. When corruption enters the courts, it harms more than one case. It damages the idea of equal justice under the law. But here's the difference now. The Caldwell case isn't about detention kickbacks or stock trades. This is about silencing a witness whose testimony threatens powerful people. This is political. This is planned. And based on the 12 payments, this is systematic. The kids for cash judges acted alone, driven by greed. What the Vance documents suggest is far worse. An organized system that can buy court outcomes. A list of compromised officials. Former federal judge Patricia Martinez said it plainly. If these documents are real, this isn't isolated corruption. This is a captured judiciary, and that threatens the entire country. We've seen bad judges before. We've never seen anything like this. Legal and financial experts are calling this the biggest exposure of court corruption in modern U.S. history. Professor Alan Dershowitz, a Harvard Law professor emeritus, said the mix of financial records, timing, and clear reference codes makes a case any U.S. attorney could bring immediately. The question isn't if it's a crime. It's why charges aren't already filed. The legal effects go far beyond Caldwell. Every ruling he's made in the past 5 years is now questionable. Defense lawyers nationwide are preparing to challenge convictions from his court. If corruption is proven, hundreds of cases could be overturned. Former FBI Financial Crimes Chief Daniel Morrison highlighted the global side of this. Moving money through Singapore, Cyprus, and the Caymans takes serious skill. This wasn't amateur work. Whoever set this up has done it before. Morrison added that the WCP-14 contained reference code shows either a huge mistake or total confidence they were protected. Either way, it shows they acted without fear. Law professor Jonathan Turley said when judges can be bought, the Constitution becomes optional. Every American's rights depend on whether the judge was paid. That's not justice. That's an auction. Even conservative legal scholars are alarmed. George Mason University's Professor William Barker said if real, this is the worst breach of judicial ethics he's seen in 40 years. No conservative belief supports bribery. The money trail has also caught the attention of international regulators. Sources say FinCEN, Singapore's monetary authority, and Europol have opened early reviews. Former Treasury official Sarah Chen said the amounts, locations, and speed of transfers should have triggered reports that appeared to have been avoided. Someone at several banks either ignored this or helped it happen. That widens the conspiracy. This isn't just about one judge. It's about a whole system of corruption and how many institutions helped hide it. Do me a favor and hit that like button right now. It helps this reach more Americans who need to know. If you believe in accountability and justice, hit like. It matters. So what does this mean next? First, witness 14's detention is now legally impossible to defend. Lawyers have filed emergency motions for release saying detention ordered by a corrupt judge violates basic rights. Experts think the witness could be free within days or even hours. The Justice Department is stuck. Defend the detention and look guilty, or release the witness and admit failure. Either way, trust in federal detention power is damaged. Every pretrial detainee is now asking, was my judge paid too? Second, the other 11 names could freeze parts of the federal courts. If Vance releases them, and sources say he will, we face recusals, emergency reviews, and a legitimacy crisis lasting years. Cases before these judges will be challenged. Convictions will be appealed. The backlog could overwhelm the courts. Former Administrator Patricia Wells said even 5 corrupt judges could affect thousands of cases and cause years of delays. Third, the long-term impact on judge oversight is huge. Calls for financial transparency, family disclosure, and real-time wealth reporting are growing from both sides. Senator Mike Lee has proposed emergency laws requiring judges to face the same financial checks as intelligence officials. If passed,